May 8th, 1945. The Third Reich lies in ruins. Berlin burns. The swastika flags are torn down, replaced by the banners of the Allies. The most evil regime in human history has been crushed. But this is not the end of the story. This is where the real hunt begins. Because in the chaos of that moment, in the smoke and rubble of a defeated Germany, thousands of men are making a calculation. War criminals, officers, men with blood on their hands. They know what awaits them if they stay. The Nuremberg trials, the gallows, justice. So they run. But where do you hide when the entire world is hunting you? The answer lies across an ocean, in a place few would suspect: Argentina.
Between 1945 and 1955, as many as 10,000 Nazi war criminals and collaborators vanished from Europe. They traveled along secret escape routes called Ratlines, like rats fleeing a sinking ship. And at least 5,000 of them found sanctuary in Argentina, welcomed with open arms by a government that saw opportunity where the rest of the world saw evil. This is the story of the Ratlines, the system of escape routes that spirited the architects of genocide to safety. The network of priests, politicians, and spies who made it possible. And the shocking reasons why Argentina became the chosen refuge for some of history's most wanted men. The war ends on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, the planning has already begun. These fugitives face an immediate problem. Europe is crawling with Allied soldiers. Every border is watched. Every port is monitored. The continent has become a cage. But the network they built during the war hasn't completely collapsed. Former admirers still hold positions of power, and some are willing to help.
Spain becomes the first refuge. Francisco Franco's fascist government had supported Germany throughout the war. Though officially neutral, Spain had sent thousands of volunteers to fight alongside the Wehrmacht. Now Franco's government provides a safe haven for fleeing Nazis, a temporary shelter before the final journey across the Atlantic. Switzerland offers another option. Officially neutral during the war, certain Swiss banking officials and government leaders had maintained warm relations with the Reich. Now they provide something equally valuable: a way to move money, stolen Jewish assets, looted gold, the fortune needed to buy new identities and passage to South America. But the most surprising help comes from an unexpected source: the Catholic Church. Certain clergy members, particularly Austrian Bishop Alois Hudal and Croatian priest Krunoslav Draganović, actively aid in Nazi escapes. They provide false papers. They offer shelter in monasteries along what becomes known as the monastery route. They issue documents from the International Red Cross, transforming SS officers into Catholic refugees. Their motivations are complex. Some see Nazis as allies against the common enemy of communism. Others believe in offering Christian mercy to defeated enemies. Whatever their reasons, their involvement proves crucial. Without the Church's assistance, the Ratlines might never have worked. Two primary escape routes emerge from the chaos. The first runs from Germany through Spain to Argentina. Fugitives travel overland to the Spanish border, often crossing the Pyrenees on foot. In Spanish ports like Barcelona and Cadiz, they board ships bound for Buenos Aires. The journey takes weeks, but Spanish officials look the other way, and Argentine consulates issue visas with suspicious ease. The second route proves even more effective. It leads from Germany across the Alps into Italy. In Italian monasteries, fugitives hide in plain sight, disguised as Catholic pilgrims. They make their way to Rome, where church officials provide crucial documents. From Rome, they travel to the port of Genoa,
There, they board ships to South America, carrying forged Red Cross passports and Argentine visas.
The documents are surprisingly easy to obtain. Bishop Hudel maintains offices near the Vatican. He provides letters of recommendation describing SS officers as good Catholics fleeing communist persecution. The International Red Cross, overwhelmed by millions of displaced persons, issues travel documents with minimal verification. Argentine consulates stamp visas with few questions asked. Within months, the Ratlines are running smoothly. A fugitive Nazi could move from Germany to Argentina in a matter of weeks. All it takes is the right connections and enough money. But why Argentina? Why does this distant South American nation become the promised land for Nazi war criminals? The answer begins with one man, Juan Domingo Perón.
In 1946, as the Nuremberg trials are just beginning, Perón wins the Argentine presidency. He's a complex figure, shaped by years as a military attaché in Mussolini's Italy. He admired the pageantry of fascism, the military parades, the authoritarian efficiency. He saw potential in what Hitler and Mussolini had built. When Nazi Germany falls, Perón doesn't see criminals fleeing justice. He sees an opportunity. First, there's the financial incentive. Wealthy Germans and Argentine businessmen of German descent are willing to pay substantial sums to help their countrymen escape. Each fugitive represents a potential investment in Argentina's future. Some arrive with hidden fortunes, looted from Jewish families and European treasuries. Second, Perón envisions a geopolitical strategy. By 1946, the Cold War is already taking shape. The alliance between America and the Soviet Union is fracturing. Perón and his advisors predict the coming conflict between capitalism and communism. Argentina, they believe, could position itself as a crucial third power, playing both sides for maximum advantage.
In this calculation, former Nazis become valuable assets. They're educated, they're experienced, they're passionately anti-communist. Perón particularly wants scientists, engineers, and military experts who can help modernize Argentina's armed forces and industries. It's the same logic that leads America to recruit German scientists in Operation Paperclip, and the Soviets to do the same in their occupied zones. But there's a third reason, perhaps the most important. Argentina already has deep cultural and economic ties to Germany. Hundreds of thousands of German immigrants had settled in Argentina over the previous century. German was spoken in entire neighborhoods. German businesses dominated key industries. The Argentine military had been trained by German advisors. In many ways, Argentina already felt like a second home to Germans.
Throughout the war, Argentina had maintained its neutrality until the final month, only declaring war on the Axis powers in March 1945, when Germany's defeat was inevitable. The declaration was purely symbolic, made under intense Allied pressure. Many in Perón's government had openly supported the Axis cause. Some Argentine diplomats in Europe had even helped Nazi spies during the war. Now, those same diplomats become crucial players in the Ratlines. Argentine consulates in Spain and Italy issue visas to fugitives with suspicious ease. Intelligence officers in Europe actively recruit fleeing Nazis. Perón's immigration commissioner, Santiago Peralta, an avowed anti-Semite, streamlines the citizenship process for European war criminals. The system works with ruthless efficiency. By 1950, Argentina has become a Nazi haven.
Among those who successfully navigate the Ratlines, Adolf Eichmann, the architect of the final solution. In 1950, he boards a ship to Buenos Aires using the false identity Ricardo Clement. For a decade, he lives quietly in the suburbs of the capital, working as a foreman at the Mercedes-Benz factory. His family joins him. He raises his children in peace. Josef Mengele, the Auschwitz doctor who conducted horrific medical experiments, arrives in Argentina in 1949. He moves freely through Buenos Aires society for years before eventually fleeing to Paraguay and then Brazil. Franz Stangl, commandant of the Treblinka death camp, settles in Brazil after traveling the Ratline through Syria. Gustav Wagner, known as the Beast of Sobibor, builds a new life in Brazil. Otto Storseni, Hitler's favorite commando, escapes to Spain and makes frequent trips to Argentina, even serving as a bodyguard for Eva Perón. Hundreds more arrive whose names history has forgotten. Former SS officers, Gestapo agents, camp guards, collaborators from France, Croatia, Hungary, and beyond. They blend into Argentina's large German community. They change their names. They reinvent themselves as farmers, businessmen, laborers. Many never speak of their pasts again. For a decade, Argentina is a sanctuary where mass murderers live ordinary lives. But the world doesn't forget, and justice, though delayed, eventually comes. The first crack in the facade appears in 1955, when Perón's government falls in a military coup. The new administration has no love for Perón or his policies. Some of the fugitives begin to worry. Will the new government maintain their protection? Will they be extradited to face trial? Most aren't, but the sense of absolute security begins to erode.
Then comes May 11, 1960, a Wednesday evening in Buenos Aires. Adolf Eichmann steps off a bus near his modest home on Garibaldi Street. He's walking along a dark, quiet road when a car appears to break down ahead of him. As he passes, men grab him from behind. Within seconds, he's wrestled to the ground, shoved into the back seat, and driven away. The kidnappers are Israeli Mossad agents, led by Rafi Eitan and orchestrated by Mossad director Isser Harel. They've spent months tracking Eichmann, watching his routines, planning every detail. They hold him in a safe house for 9 days, waiting for an El Al flight. On May 20, heavily drugged and disguised as a crew member, Eichmann is smuggled onto a plane bound for Israel. 3 days later, Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion stuns the world with an announcement to the Knesset. Adolf Eichmann, architect of the Holocaust, has been captured. He will stand trial in Jerusalem.
Argentina is furious. They demand answers at the United Nations, claiming Israel violated their sovereignty. But there's an uncomfortable truth they can't escape. Eichmann was living openly in Buenos Aires under a barely disguised name. His wife had purchased their house under a name that was off by just one letter from Eichmann. Argentine authorities could have found him at any time. They chose not to look. The Eichmann trial, broadcast around the world in 1961, becomes a watershed moment. For the first time, millions watch Holocaust survivors testify in detail about the machinery of genocide. The world sees Eichmann, calm and bureaucratic, claiming he was simply following orders. In December 1961, he's convicted. On June 1, 1962, he's hanged, the only execution ever carried out by the State of Israel. The capture sends shockwaves through Argentina's Nazi community. If Eichmann could be found, no one is safe. Some flee to other countries. Mengele escapes to Brazil, where he lives under an alias until drowning in 1979. Others go deeper into hiding.
But by the 1990s, most of the fugitives are elderly or dead. The few who remain live openly under their real names. The obsessive secrecy has faded. Some are tracked down and extradited for trial. Others die before justice can reach them. Argentina's role in the Ratlines becomes a source of national embarrassment. For decades, the full truth remains locked in government archives. Then, in 2025, newly elected President Javier Milei orders the declassification of all documents related to Nazi fugitives. Over 1,800 files are released to the public, revealing the full extent of Argentine complicity. Banking records, immigration documents, evidence of how a government deliberately shielded mass murderers from justice. The Ratlines succeeded because powerful institutions chose to help. The Catholic Church provided papers and sanctuary. Swiss banks laundered stolen wealth. Spanish and Argentine officials looked the other way. Even allied intelligence agencies sometimes helped, seeing former Nazis as useful assets in the emerging Cold War. The system worked because enough people decided that other priorities mattered more than justice for genocide. In the end, most of the fugitives escaped accountability. They lived out their lives in comfort, far from the consequences of their actions. Some were caught and punished. Most were not.
The Ratlines remain one of history's darkest escape routes. A reminder that even after the worst evil is defeated, the work of justice has only begun. And that evil doesn't always look like evil. Sometimes it looks like a quiet bureaucrat stepping off a bus in Buenos Aires. A man going home to his family. A man who helped murder 6 million people. The Ratlines were never about one person's escape. They were about a system that protected thousands. About nations that chose expedience over accountability. About the ease with which the architects of mass murder could simply disappear if enough powerful people were willing to help them. The documents are declassified now. The truth is available for anyone who wants to see it. But the fugitives themselves are gone. Most of them having lived full lives, far from the justice they deserved. The rats found their holes, and for too many of them, they stayed hidden until death.